Hi, today we are talking about over apologizing and how it has become this cultural phenomena and very much gendered the need to always apologize. My name is Gina Goodwin Riley. I am a clinical mental health therapist. I am a licensed attorney and mediator and conflict coach. I'm also a master life coach and co-founder of the Global Institute for Holistic Coaching. And I also teach yoga and wellness and meditation. So I see this come up in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different areas, right? And of course, how we look at apologies maybe in the legal community or conflict is going to be different than how we look at over apologizing in a space of vulnerability, right? So I would offer this. First, think about yourself, your culture, your community, and what is the expectation based off your gender? What does it mean to apologize? Do you come from a culture or a community where apologizing is seen as polite and that not apologizing is seen as rude? So it might be even one of those things in the dialect, like very common how people will say or like to fill a space. Some dialects in some specific communities in this country, you'll notice that more people will say, sorry, but just when they're talking, it's just a pattern of speech dialect, right? So start by thinking about your community, your culture. Start noticing if a lot of people in your space of work, in your little friend group apologize, because that might be why you're doing it. It might be more of just habit. And also, what does apologizing mean to you, right? What's the meaning behind the apology? Do you see apologizing as people pleasing? Do you see apologizing as a strength, or do you see apologizing as a weakness? Now, just like with anything, apologies can be all of the above, right? It can be a strength, because think about how little people apologize when they actually need to apologize, right? And this comes up in the legal community a lot. Oftentimes you'll have two people who are in conflict where if one person would just apologize, the other person would drop the lawsuit. I have been in the room where I ask a side, what do you need to see happen to drop this lawsuit? And they say an apology, right? And so sometimes not apologizing can hold us back from the outcome that we want. In relationships, this can happen, right? Like a simple apology can go a long way. Taking accountability. I'm so sorry, that I blew up on you last night. It wasn't really about you. And I know that this doesn't, take away the harm that I caused by blowing up, but I just wanted you to know that I feel really bad and I'm sorry. That can go a long way, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, where we're getting a lot of questions is actually on the other side of an apology, when you're over apologizing for being vulnerable. You apologize for crying or sharing your feelings. You apologize for participating in a conversation, for speaking up. And how that can feel like it's holding you back, and how that is very much a genderized thing, right? Women tend to apologize more than men in those kind of settings. This just happened recently this week. I was working with a client who started crying a very appropriate way at a very appropriate time in our session. And she said, sorry. And she was apologizing to me, who is this paid professional, who, if she doesn't feel safe to cry in session, then where does she feel safe to cry? And that got me thinking about apologies in general, when we feel the need to apologize for showing any emotion, and where does that come from, and how that can be a dangerous thing that has started to weave itself into our culture here in the United States, when we see vulnerability and showing emotion as a weakness. Now, look, there's a time and a place for everything, right? It's not always appropriate to cry and overshare. So let's put that over here. But when you're, talking to a friend or a family member or a loved one, do you feel safe to show emotion, or are you one of those people who's apologizing? So start to think about the why behind why you're apologizing, the why behind the why. Ask why you're apologizing, and then ask yourself, what does it mean that you're apologizing about yourself? Does that mean you're uncomfortable with sharing emotions? Did you come from a family where crying or sharing emotions was frowned upon, right? That could be why you're apologizing. A great tool that I've heard of used in this area is to change your apology from I'm sorry to thank you. And that 9 out of 10 times, thank you can have a more powerful effect than I'm sorry. So let's go back to the example of you're crying. Maybe instead of with your therapist, you're with a friend and you start to cry. Instead of saying I'm sorry, what if you said, thank you for listening? Or you said, thank you for making me feel safe and giving me an opportunity to talk through this. Let's say that you're late for a meeting. Instead of running in and saying, I'm so sorry that I'm late. What if you said, thank you all for being patient, or thank you for waiting? This thank you is very powerful, right? Because it turns it from a negative about us to a positive about them. And everybody loves to get a little bit of positive recognition. So try turning I'm sorry into thank you and see what that can do. So I guess to wrap this up, I'm gonna say, think about which lane you're falling into. Is it a place where there's a conflict and you might need to take accountability and apologize, and you're having a hard time saying I'm sorry? Why are you having a hard time saying I'm sorry? Is it something that you struggle with in life? For some people, I'm sorry is a very hard phrase to say. For others, it's a hard phrase not to say. So like anything, we want to be balanced. We want to be in the middle. So ask yourself, is this a place where you could apologize more? If we are in conflict or you're needing to take accountability, or if you over apologize to the point where it's actually taking the power out of the phrase. I have worked with couples where one partner will say, I'm sorry all the time. And the other partner, you can see that they just stop hearing it. So even when the person means it, it becomes washed out and diluted if you're saying it all the time. So think through that. And then also think about why you're saying I'm sorry in communication if it's not conflict, right? If it's just, I'm sorry, to interrupt somebody, or I'm sorry, but I don't want pizza tonight. Why can't it just be, I don't want pizza tonight? Does that come from a place of feeling like you don't want to disappoint somebody? Do you have trouble self-advocating? Do you have trouble with confidence? You kind of want to figure out what lane you're in. And then the other thing to think about too is there a space where you can turn I'm sorry into thank you and cover the same ground where you're acknowledging that, maybe you overshared or you dominated the conversation and talked too much. So instead of saying, I'm so sorry, I just word vomited for the past half hour, you can say, thank you so much for listening. I always feel so safe, clearly in how we communicate, and I really value our friendship. So turn your I'm sorry into thank you. And keep coming back to our channel. We are always posting good stuff here at Global Holistic. So we've got life coaching tips, we have wellness tips, we have a podcast, we have guided meditations, we have guided yoga flows. So you name it, when it comes to holistic health and wellness, we got it. We got you covered. We're always sharing content on our channel. So if you haven't already liked and subscribed, you're going to want to do that. We have some wonderful workshops and free podcasts. We have a retreat coming up in Costa Rica. We have a lot of wonderful things. So if you're interested in this world of wellness and holistic coaching or life coaching or just kind of leveling up, check us out at www.globalholisticcoaching.com. We have a lot of good stuff. And also, if you have any questions, go ahead and email us. You can get a hold of us through our website, or you could drop a question in the comments below. We're always looking for questions to create content about, and we are also checking all the time, so we can respond to you in real time, or we might actually use one of your questions for one of our upcoming podcasts or life coaching tips of the week. So make sure you're engaging with us, stay connected, let us know how we can help you, and thanks for checking in.